Welcome to another episode of Hood Ties. In this episode, we'll be discussing the complex life of Kenneth Copeland, better known in the streets as Lil Woody. Born and raised in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, Woody's journey is one that encapsulates the struggles, triumphs, and harsh realities faced by many young black men growing up in urban America. Today, we'll explore how a young kid from Mechanicsville transformed from a vibrant community member to a figure entrenched in the city's gang culture, and ultimately, a man seeking redemption in the music industry. Mechanicsville isn't just any neighborhood. It's a place steeped in history. It emerged in the late 19th century, nestled next to several railroad lines just south of downtown Atlanta. The name Mechanicsville pays homage to the hard-working mechanics who toiled on the railways. Once a bustling, multi-ethnic community filled with working-class black families and middle-class white families, it was home to several prominent merchant families who contributed to its vibrancy. But like many urban neighborhoods, Mechanicsville faced its challenges. As middle-class families migrated to the suburbs, crime began to plague the area. The construction of Atlanta-Fulton County Stadium and the nearby Interstate Highway only exacerbated the decline. However, in the early 2000s, a ray of hope emerged. Mechanicsville began to see revitalization, partly due to its proximity to downtown and midtown Atlanta, attracting new families and investors who saw potential in the area. Abandoned homes were renovated, new constructions sprang up, and economic development began to flourish, slowly restoring the community's former glory. In July of 1991, Kenneth Copeland entered this world at Grady Memorial Hospital. As a child, he was affectionately nicknamed Lil Woody by his mother, a name that would follow him throughout his tumultuous life. Growing up in Mechanicsville, Woody experienced the joys and struggles of childhood, but tragedy struck early. In 2001, while living in Bowen Homes, a public housing project, Woody faced the devastating loss of his father to cancer. The loss of a parent can shape a child's life in profound ways, and for Woody, this was just the beginning. After several years, Woody and his mother returned to Mechanicsville, but fate had more in store for him. In 2008, the unimaginable happened. Woody lost his mother. This traumatic event shattered his world, pushing him into a life of isolation and despair. With no family to lean on, he turned to the streets for solace. One of the most pivotal moments in Woody's life came when he lost his best friend, DB. The murder of DB was a turning point, igniting a fire within Woody that led him down a dark path. The streets of Atlanta transformed him into a figure feared by many, and his name soon echoed throughout the neighborhood. He earned a reputation as a certified gangster, a young man deeply embedded in a culture of violence and chaos. At just 17 years old, Woody's life took a turn for the worse when he was arrested for possessing a firearm as a minor. This would mark the beginning of a series of run-ins with the law. Spending his 18th birthday in county jail was a harsh reality check, but it didn't deter him. He adopted a mindset of, "When I see you, it's on sight," a mentality that would lead him further into the treacherous world of gang life. By the time he was 18, Woody had fully immersed himself in Atlanta's gang culture, aligning himself with a group known as 30 Deep. More than just a street gang, 30 Deep was a collective of young men fueled by a thirst for violence and a desire for survival. They were notorious for their willingness to engage in violent crimes, including smash-and-grab burglaries and assaults. Their reputation grew as they committed increasingly bold acts, often with little regard for the consequences. What set 30 Deep apart from other gangs was their elusive nature. Law enforcement found them difficult to track due to their loose organizational ties and lack of permanent members. The gang was a patchwork of individuals, each with their own reasons for joining the movement. Many were drawn in by older ex-convicts who had returned to the neighborhood, looking to mentor and exploit the vulnerabilities of young men eager to prove themselves. As the years passed, 30 Deep's activities escalated. They became infamous for their daring robberies, earning the media's attention with sensational headlines. The gang's criminal exploits, including the infamous Blue Jean Bandits moniker, kept them in the spotlight, but it also drew the attention of law enforcement, who were determined to dismantle their operations. In 2010, Woody and several members of 30 Deep faced serious charges, including theft by receiving stolen property and involvement in criminal street gang activity. But in the midst of chaos, a new wave of hip-hop was rising in Atlanta. Jeffrey Williams, better known as Young Thug, was making waves in the music industry, and his rise would soon intersect with Woody's life. By 2012, Young Thug had formed Young Slime Life, a group that blurred the lines between music and gang culture. The connections between street life and the music industry became increasingly evident, and it wasn't long before Woody found himself in the orbit of this rising star. Their collaboration would change the trajectory of both their lives, intertwining their fates in ways they could never have imagined. However, the streets of Atlanta were becoming increasingly dangerous. The murder of Donovan Thomas, also known as Big Nut, a senior-ranking member of the Inglewood Blood Gang, sent shockwaves through the community. Allegedly ordered by Young Thug, the assassination sparked a violent gang war that shook the city. The aftermath of this murder would lay the groundwork for a bloody conflict that claimed countless lives and further entrenched Woody in the world of violence. As rival gangs clashed, the stakes grew higher. In January 2015, an attempted robbery at a club led to an assault on Woody, igniting tensions even further. Living the street life meant constant vigilance, and Woody was well aware of the dangers that lurked around every corner. Just months later, he found himself in a shootout with rival gang members while trying to protect his infant daughter. The chaos of his life had reached a boiling point. After being released from prison for a parole violation, Woody's struggles continued. He was arrested again for possession of an assault rifle, marking a staggering 57 arrests in total. It seemed that Woody was trapped in an endless cycle of violence and incarceration, his dreams overshadowed by the harsh realities of street life. On October 22, 2018, Lil Woody was sentenced to federal prison. It was during this time, confined and reflective, that he began to contemplate a different future. Upon his release, he turned to music as a means of escape, hoping to channel his experiences into something positive. But just as he began to gain traction in the music industry, the COVID-19 pandemic struck, pushing him back into a world he was desperately trying to leave behind. As the internet buzzed with rumors and accusations, Woody found himself branded as a snitch, a label that threatened to undermine his efforts to re-establish himself. Frustrated and fed up with the slander, he confronted the individual who slandered his name from social media. Had it not been for a fortunate malfunction with his Glock, things could have escalated quickly into violence. Despite the numerous shootings and arrests, one might have thought that the chaos had finally subsided. But the violence continued in March of 2022, when police arrested 2 suspects linked to a shooting that left a man dead in Mechanicsville. The cycle of violence seemed unbreakable, with gangs continuing to wreak havoc in the community. Luckily for Woody, in recent times, he has taken steps to distance himself from his past. He's been doing interviews and podcasts, aiming to redefine his narrative and separate himself from the street life that once consumed him. He's denounced his affiliation with YSL, focusing instead on legal avenues to provide for his family and build a better future. But the lingering question remains: has Lil Woody truly left the streets behind? Or will the lure of his past draw him back into the violent life he fought so hard to escape? As we conclude this episode of Hood Ties, we ask you, what do you think? Can a man like Lil Woody find redemption? Or is he destined to fall back into the cycle of violence that has claimed so many lives before him? As always, thank you for joining us. Stay safe, keep your heads up, and make sure to subscribe for more stories that matter. Peace.